for coming, to repeat myself, to our first seminar of our 9th season. And can't believe it's been that many years since we've been doing it. And we really appreciate everybody who's been through a whole lot of them, and everybody who this is your first one. They're not, it's very obvious that we're not charging at the door, and we're not charging for pizza, we're not charging for drinks. We feel like if you guys come and you learn, and you catch more, you do more, at some point you're probably going to grow into a new boat, and you're going to definitely grow into new tackle and to new rods and to new reels when you do all these things. And
guilty.
Guilty. All that we ask and would hope for is that you remember things like this that we do. And it's nice when you see the business that comes from it way on down the road. There's definitely no instant gratification, but it's just nice to see it. And then when young people, old people learn, and it's just really cool when you put a new plug in, or you put a new technique in that you've never fished for, because we're creatures of habit. We go have one good day and we stick with that bait for the next 20 years.
Also guilty.
And we dog cuss all the bad days.
Yep.
And it was all, and we don't know why, but hopefully this gives you some insight. I'm very surprised though, because this is the least amount of tackle.
Oh no.
No, I know, I see some back there. The least amount of tackle on the table I've ever seen, but it is inshore fishing.
Yeah.
And the fish's mouths are usually smaller, right?
Yeah.
So you don't need as much big tackle. We hope you enjoy yourselves. Mark and Tim, both very close friends, and great business partners and colleagues, and Kayla, Mark's better half, and all of our staff is here. So in the event that you get a wild hair tonight and you get so excited and you start to get that buzz from your third Diet Mountain Dew or Diet Dr. Pepper, and you can't stand it anymore and you need to make an impulse decision, don't go do it over at the arcade at Lulu's. I'd climb on top of one of these boats, and they won't think that you're rude at all if you do it during the seminar. You feel free to just go jump on one.
Yeah.
That 17-foot Scout is a beautiful inshore boat. This is the brand new 281 Scout. This is a brand new 28-foot bay boat that they just introduced. People on our team helped them design it. It's got a single 400 V10 Mercury, naturally aspirated rocket ship motor.
That's probably pretty slow, isn't it?
It's not real slow. And then behind it, we have the 267 OE version of the Master series from Sportsman. That's one of the coolest Swiss Army knives of a nearshore, offshore / inshore capability boat that you have full offshore fishability. I mean, you could go kite fish for sailfish, you could bottom fish for grouper, you could fish in 1.5 feet of water for redfish with a trolling motor in the water. You can do it all with that boat. The 273 is just a little bit bigger version, a little more Gucci with the paint job and all the good things. But this is just some of the stuff that you could look at, and there's a lot more outside. We actually have well over 100 new boats in inventory, and we've got 30 used boats out on our used boat lot, and we've got tons of consignment and brokerage boats that we store inside the barn. So get up on that Diet Mountain Dew. That third one will get you every time, every single time. And sometimes you'll get a little buzz if you eat a lot of pepperoni pizza. It make you do impulse acts and decisions. So I would love to sit up here and help you with the seminar today, because I love inshore fishing. That's my passion. And sometimes I get lucky and I do things with it, but I'm going to turn it back over to Tim.
Well, you had a good day last week though, right?
I had a good day last week. It was nice. I will tell you this, because these two guys probably haven't been doing it, but if you have a smaller boat like this, or you like to get to a spot where it's very, very shallow, the technical inshore sight fishing right now is really good. It's not real good right after the north wind and after the day or two of a front, because all the water pushes out of the bay and the fish are spookier when the water is down, and you don't find nearly as many fish on the flats. But if you look at the weather and you see a south wind for a day or two, after a north wind is blown and that water rises up a little bit in the bay, these redfish and sometimes groups of 10 to 15 trout will move up in the docks a lot further where the water will allow them. You just got to either get out of your boat that doesn't draft in very shallow water, or you got to have a shallow draft boat, something like the 17-foot Scout. I run a boat just like that, and you just got to be quiet, and you got to throw quiet baits. You can't get out and throw even a 16th ounce lead jig head or a 1/4 ounce DOA shrimp. There's something about the weight of the lead inside the bait that scares the fish off. You can land a bait from me to the receptionist desk, and they know it's in their presence, whether they see it or not. So baits like plastic baits with offset hooks, like bass hooks, owner bass hooks, number 2 offsets, Gamakatsu offsets. If it has a little bit of weight in the hook, that's all right. But there's something about the weight that scares the fish. And then if you're throwing just plastic baits, you want to load them down with Procure, or you want to throw a Berkeley Gulp, something with scent. And then you bring the bait in front of the fish, well before you see the line of where the fish is going to cross. You let the bait sit there. And then you just barely, you don't even tap it with your wrist. You just tap the tip of your finger on your rod tip. Barely tap it. And if it sees it move at all, it'll go pick it up. When the water's low and it's post front, it don't matter. If they see that bait moving around, whether they hear it or not, they're gone. But sometimes you get lucky, and I caught 3 fish in an hour, 7, 9, and 12 pounds, and I did it all in 12 inches of water. It was a lot of fun. And the fish they like to raise cane in shallow water. There's nowhere to go, so they just go crazy. But there's a lot of that good stuff going around here. They're going to teach you more about live bait and plastics and artificials, but sheepshead and Spanish mackerel, some maybe bull reds.
Yep.
Any of those on the beach right now?
There's been some. It's not been good yet. There've been a few around the bridge and a few around the backside of Crab Island on the buoy line back there.
Has anybody seen the school of redfish on the flat, on the west flat, just beyond the no wake zone where you can't fish by the Coast Guard station? Has anybody seen that? If you're in a boat and you're on the west side of Crab Island, either coming from Fort Walton into the Coast Guard station or you're going that way, get on the grass line, and if you're like going back towards Fort Walton, just put it in gear, like an incoming tide obviously because the water's so clear, and look to the left. You will see between 300 and 500 redfish, and they all are about this size, this complexion. You don't have a dot, do you?
It's down here.
And you cannot get them to eat anything artificial at all. The only chance you have to catch, and they're there all day long. Incoming tide, outgoing tide, but you'll see them on the incoming. The only chance you have to catch these fish is to pull a boat like that up on shore, get out with live shrimp, and maybe a very, very small weight, like a little split shot, and lay it out in front of where the fish are going to cross. And that's about as good a chance that you're going to have. Now the backside of Crab Island, low light conditions, incoming tide, the fish don't know you're there, throwing small jigs like this, working them across the grass flats, or like gold Johnson spoons, half-ounce Johnson spoons, that can work. But you got to go see these fish if you're on the water, because they're there and they'll be there for the next month. Anyway, thank you guys. I'm going to turn it back over to the pros. Y'all have a good night.
Well, that's the seminar, guys. Have a great night. Thanks, Todd.
See you, Todd. Thank you. So, has everybody enjoyed the wind and the rough seas and stuff?
God.
Has anybody got a chance to go out and catch anything? All right. Well, you know, we all want to think that we're experts and we're all good and we can catch anything that we want to catch on command, but you know, normally I think I'm pretty good. And me and Mark went the other day, and you know, our kind of target that day, we thought we were going to go catch a mess of mingoes that day. You know, that's pretty easy. I should be able to catch those. You know, we didn't catch one.
I never saw one until somebody else at the table was filleting one.
We fished all day, didn't catch one.
We had a good catch though.
But we did have a good catch. We managed to catch 5 almacos.
5 almaco,
and
10,
a mess
10
of
whites.
Yep.
And then a lot of Banded rudderfish.
Yeah. I've never seen, it's probably one of the better days I've had on what we call amberines or banded rudderfish. Pretty much every stop we made, we caught them, and had some that were very close to being too big. Normally the ones I catch are 14, 15 inches or so, and the max limit on them is 22, and we had some that were very, very close to 22.
Right.
So it ended up being a good day. We just didn't get our target species. So the point of that is that no matter, even if you do the right things all the time, you're not going to be great every day.
But you can adapt. So
Right.
like where we didn't have the bite we were looking for, luckily, because of going to all these seminars, I had an idea of, well, hey, let's go. What's the same with charter fishing or fishing in general every day anyway? Like I have an idea of what I think I want to happen in the morning.
Yep.
Maybe 20 minutes into that plan, it completely changes.
Well, we probably ended up, if we would have caught the same amount of mingos, we actually had more poundage catching what we caught.
Oh, for sure.
So it actually ended up being.
That was almost embarrassing. That was too much. But it was fun. It was a good day.
It was fun.
And no bait at all. It was
Yeah.
funny. FWC, I'm in that thing where you get those random phone surveys, and they were like, so what was your target species? And I was like, mingos. And they were like, okay, well, what'd you catch? How many mingos did you catch? I was like, 0. And they were like, well, how long were you fishing? In 6 hours or so. They were like, well, how much time was actually spent fishing? And I was like, 3. And she was like, why? And I was like, because I spent an hour and a half looking for bait that I never found anywhere.
No. We checked all the regular bait stuff. I think the inshore water is just a little bit chilly for that right now.
It said 58 degrees on my trout water.
Yeah. So, but overall, a good day. Well, anyway, let's get talking about what we're going to do tonight. Our main focus is going to be on Spanish and sheephead. So kind of be, we'll go 2 ways here and talk about Spanish first. There's old wise tale, and there's a fair amount of truth to it, that the Spanish show up after the 3rd straight day of fog. And reasons behind that is, that's when the water is coming to the right temperature, the atmosphere is getting right, and it holds true a lot of times that you get that 3rd straight day of fog and the Spanish will start showing up. And we'll see them in the harbor normally first. And the first ones we see, actually, sometimes up around the Shalimar Bridge, there will be some bigger ones at first. But all them ones in the harbor, they'll be, the first day or 2, you just see them flipping all over the harbor. Now, they'll be little bitty guys. They're perfect bait size and stuff, but some of them won't even be keepers. They'll be 10 inchers. But they'll be in there feeding on them little tiny rain minnows, and they will get big fast. They grow quick.
Well, let me ask you this, and you're the expert here. You've been here a lot longer than me. I just get to fish a lot. Those fish are coming in from the east, right?
Yeah.
And I've found that in this day and age, and I say this every time, you can't catch a fish without posting it on Facebook anymore. So a lot of times when I see Panama City, the passes and those guys over there start catching fish, I'm like, okay, it's coming. It's getting close. And I think last year, or maybe the year before, I was fishing way down the ditch, like halfway between Destin and Panama City, and I caught Spanish in the ditch before they started showing up in Destin Harbor.
Yeah.
That fish that I caught was gross. It was an awful Spanish mackerel. But then shortly after that, it came. So I think that's a good sign of when they start catching them, then they're coming this way.
Well, isn't it supposed to be 72 degrees? Isn't that supposed to be the magic number?
For king mackerel, the magic number for them to show up is normally about 68. Spanish is a little bit cooler. The water temperature can be well into the mid 60s.
Oh, really? Nice.
64, 65, you'll definitely start seeing Spanish.
And I think, and I'm no meteorologist, but I think with the fogs, it makes sense because it's the fog happens when the dew point and the air temperature are the same.
Correct.
But when the water temperature and the air temperature get to be the same as when that fog starts happening. So I think that water temperature's cold right now.
It's cold.
We usually get Dog Island reports and then first.
You know, and there's several ways to catch the Spanish.
And I can feel a story coming out of just reading this graphic. I already know the story that's coming out of this.
So, you know, you can catch Spanish. I mean, the majority of the small charter boats that you see in town, they troll for them. And that's out of ease of fishing because they don't have people that can really handle casting a rod all day. And you can probably catch more of them trolling than you can casting, because trolling, we troll with little straw rigs that have 5 or 6 hooks on them, and you'll catch the Spanish 2 or 3 at a time. But I like to use the trolling method as just a way to locate the fish and then start casting to them. But you can you know, you don't necessarily have to have a boat. We can catch them from the jetties, we can catch them from the pier, and you can catch them from Noriega Point. And sometimes your buddy will come trolling by Noriega Point when you're standing there casting a little jig, and I've caught 10 and my buddy hasn't got one yet.
And you look at your friend standing on the sand with a bucket full of Spanish mackerel, and you're just driving right back and forth looking at him.
But I gave you some. So we're going to talk about a lot of different ways to catch them. That was a quick move. Something happened?
No, I just didn't want it in front of the TV.
Oh. It's like, what's going on here? You know, these are just random little Spanish photos.
Yeah, don't lip those if you didn't know that.
Yeah, if you lip a Spanish, you will only do it once. Because for a fish that's only 12 inches long, they do have a mouthful of razor blades. So we do need to be able to tell a Spanish from a king. We normally don't catch kings early like this. They'll be 2 or 3 weeks behind the Spanish. And due to contrary belief, I've had people pull up to the rodeo dock before that I thought were pretty competent fishermen. And it's like, what y'all got today? It's like, oh, we got the winning Spanish mackerel. And they'll throw a fish up there. This is 12 or 15 pound fish. And I'm like, that's a king mackerel. And they're going, no, it's got spots all over it. It's a Spanish. King mackerel, juvenile king mackerel have spots and can keep their spots up to almost 20 pounds in some cases. You don't see it very often, but you can. But the distinctive tell is the lateral line. The lateral line has a distinctive fall in the king mackerel, where in the Spanish it's more of a straight line. And then this dorsal fin is much, much darker. It's almost black in a Spanish, where in a king it stays kind of grayish colored. But you do want to make sure that you can identify them so that you don't end up with an illegal king mackerel in your boat.
Yep. Black, fin, and that dip.
Yep. As far as seasons, Spanish are open all year, and we kind of there's been a few Spanish all winter up around the Cinco and Shalimar bridges. There's not a lot, but there are some that we have some what we would call resident fish that are here all year. And just looking at that, did they change the bag limit? Wasn't it 10 last year?
Yeah, I think it was.
I thought it was less. But realistically, I mean,
I took that photo off of Fish Rules.
We're not going to keep that many of them.
You know, 12-inch size limit. Are you looking it up to confirm what it is?
15?
Yeah. So if y'all don't use, a good little deal here, if you don't use it, there is an app called Fish Rules. Everyone needs to download Fish Rules if you don't have it. It's a free app. If you have location services enabled, when you open the app, it will update to the area you're in. So if you leave here and go to Oklahoma and go bass fishing, it's going to open up to a freshwater page and give you the Oklahoma regulations.
But, and maybe I shouldn't get into this, but realistically, what do you need 15 Spanish mackerel for? I don't think Spanish freezes very well.
No.
I don't think I would. I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, we all have to be good stewards of our fishery. Otherwise, we end up with closures like we're probably going to have with groupers this year. You know, we had 17 or 18 days of grouper last year. I don't know that we're going to have any grouper this year. We should know here pretty soon. But it's a fishery that has been overfished, and like Mark said, because the bag limit's 15 per person and you got 5 people, you don't need 75 Spanish.
Who wants to clean 75 Spanish anyway?
You know, if there was that many mahis, you'd kill them all.
No.
Yes, you
Maybe.
would. And that's what's the difference between 75 Spanish and 75
I'm not going to kill 75 mahi. I don't know. I think Spanish mackerel are delicious. I like them.
Oh, they are. Take the Spanish mackerel, fillet it out, skin it, cut it into little fish fingers. And Spanish is way better than king mackerel. I mean, they're not even close, even though they're both in the mackerel family. But everybody's going to go, oh no, that's going to taste terrible. Dredge that Spanish mackerel in mustard instead of an egg mixture. Then use about a cup of cornmeal, a quarter cup of flour, and a quarter cup of starch. Plenty, just dump the whole can of Old Bay in there, salt, pepper, fry it in a cast iron skillet, not a Fry Daddy or something like that, cast iron. Man, that's good.
My recipe is a little different, but
all right.
well, I
This will be like a Canadian recipe or something.
I typically don't like to fry stuff, and wherever Kayla is, bless your heart, one day I was working on the boat and I asked her to make mine a certain way, and she was like, fine, well, I'm making mine my way. And she came down and I had hers, and now with our Spanish and our kings, we'll cube them, just like you said, get the skin off, the bloodline off, soak them in milk, right? For like 20 minutes, out of the milk, into an egg wash, into the panko and whatever spice, and then barely fry it. Just barely, like a little bit of oil in a pan, just brown it up. Perfect.
Not panko.
Just nice and easy.
Tackle. Tell us about tackle there, Mark.
I prefer the Star Segis. I prefer 7.6. I use this combo for almost everything. I keep 2 of these on either of the outside rod holders on my rocket launcher on my boat. I use this combo literally for I think I've caught every species of fish that we have on this. And I wouldn't recommend it for like an amberjack, but I can't control what bites it.
We caught double rudderfish on them the other day.
Yeah, we did. And I also lost a couple jigs on it too. I use the Star Segis. I like the 1020 7.6. I actually prefer the 7.6 with the tip broken off. Don't ask me how I learned that, but I think this one's a 7-foot. I prefer that combo with the Stratic 4000. I think there's enough line on it where if I hook a big king or something I'm not expecting, it's perfect. I think a difference between a 3 and a 4 is just line capacity, right?
Yes.
I run 20-pound braid.
No, 2,500 and 3,000 are the same. Spools interchange. 4,000 is bigger.
Okay. I run 20-pound braid on it. I think that's heavy enough for just about everything. I feel like you can get away with 20-pound braid on bigger rods and reels too if you know what you're doing. I think the drag capacity on the reel is what limits it. I run it to an Albright, to a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. I use this combo for almost everything that there is. Sometimes if I'm fishing in the bay, I'll run a lighter leader and maybe use a smaller rod. I think that's a 6.6 Segis. It's the same rod. I use this, and I pretty much use this jig too for everything. Say again?
How long is your leader?
I basically just kind of pull out a little bit, so somewhere between here and here. This one's a little bit longer, just because, and I think if Todd's in here, he hates it when I bring this up, and you probably do too. I don't care about terminal tackle. I like using speed clips. I have a certain brand that I like more than others, and everyone's like, that doesn't work. You can't catch fish. Like, the less hardware, the better. Yeah, right. Like, I catch a lot of fish, and I think the way we fish for certain species, it's a reaction bite. I mean, if I tell some guys, especially for kings, rip that thing back as fast as you can. Like, you can't reel it fast enough. And if I'm a predator fish and I see it go by, I'm chasing it. It's a reaction bite. And I think if you're running a couple inches of lead, what's an extra centimeter of a clip on it? But this leader is a little bit longer just because I'm not using that clip, just so that if I want to cut it and change it, I don't have to retie a whole leader on.
And the little Shimano and Segis combos, these will work whether you're casting or trolling. Any of the stuff that we have for trolling for Spanish, it will work for.
Sure troll, yeah.
The only time that you would need something heavier, whether it would be a heavier spinning rod or even a conventional rod, when we're trolling, trolling for the Spanish, we control the harbor, we control around the jetties, the Destin Bridge, and then we control on the backside of Crab Island, all along the buoy line, and then outside of the lip on the outside of the pass. When we're trolling outside the pass or back there around the back of Crab Island, a lot of times I use either a trolling lead or a planer to get it to have a couple lines very deep and a couple lines on top. A lot of times, most of the planer rod that's deeper, it'll get hit first, and then it'll come to the surface, and the surface rods will get hit. You would need a heavier rod for trolling the planer, but that's the only time that you would really need a heavier rod.
Agreed. Plus, I think they have a very soft mouth.
Yeah.
So sometimes, especially with an inexperienced angler, or honestly, if you're trolling with the wrong boat captain, kicking that boat in gear, whatever, you'll rip that fish's lip or his teeth right off.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes having a little bit lighter of a rod helps maybe a less experienced angler actually land some of the fish. I mean, there's so much wiggle room in the tips of these things. It's pretty. I mean, I think it's like a perfect. Honestly, I think this is my perfect king mackerel rod. And everyone kind of laughs at me like that will never work. But I also, without going too far out of the scope of things, I fight a lot of these fish pretty low. The backbone in these, I mean, you can see the tip on these things flex, but it's not flexing much down here. And I fight my fish a lot more linear, I guess is how you could word it, and not so much up and down like you're used to with like a big, heavy rod. So it's a little different style of steering that fish around. But you guys, I mean, you've heard me talk about this for 3 years now.
One other method that will really work good for the Spanish, if you're trolling to locate the fish, once you locate some fish, whether it's outside of Crab Island or in the back of the harbor, and then you want to stop and throw some smaller stuff at them where you can cast and make it more fun, get you a chum bag and a box of chum. Hang that off the back of the boat. The rain minnows all come to the boat. If you get the rain minnows to come to the boat, Spanish are coming to the boat. Just like no different than if we were fishing offshore for mahis or snappers or something like that. Chumming will work very good for the Spanish.
And I hate to say it too, but as far as locating them, there's so many boats out on the water now. If you're not the first person out there and you are leaving your dock and you look up and there's 15 boats in a circle trolling around, that Spanish are probably over there.
And most everybody doesn't mind if you come and troll with them.
If you
fall in line, troll the same speed in the same direction as everybody. Don't go the opposite direction, don't cut across. That will get you in trouble.
What if you drop your trolling motor down right in the middle of them and start casting out?
We dropped the trolling motor by a buoy. We were in the middle. It was all right. Slower is, the question was how fast do you troll? Slower is better, just in gear. If you're going too fast, you're not going to get bites. It's not like trolling, ballyhoo offshore. We're not doing 6 knots. It's in gear, just as slow as you can go.
Now I'm sure you have all like you normally do. Well, what do you do when you hook one? So say how many rods are you trolling? Is that coming up?
Don't have that. I don't think I have that on there. Normally, most everybody trolls anywhere from 2 to 4 rods. But if you stop, you're not going to catch. If you're trolling, you're not going to catch as many. Just if you're trolling, just keep on going. They're not strong enough that they're going to swim over here and tangle up another rig. It's not like you got a mahi or a wahoo or a tuna that's going to make a mess out of everything. Just keep the other lines out and just keep going. You know, you get one bit, more they're traveling in good sized schools most of the time. So you just keep going, you'll get more bites. You know?
Yes.
Tell us about different kind of lures.
This is pretty much all I ever use for every species ever. I use the 1 ounce. I can catch this thing from here to the middle school. It's just great, and it's like I said, it's a reaction bite. It's 9 times out of 10. That's what I have people throwing at the boat. For Spanish, I will use a little bit smaller one that I have, and I'll give it away at the end of this if Kayla calls out the right name. I mean, that's pretty much it. This literally works. I don't know what else you want me to say about it. It's literally what's on my rod.
So several jigs. This is the one that Mark's talking about here is the GI jig.
Is that a 1 ounce?
That is a 1 ounce there. They come in half and 1 ounce.
And they have these fancy new ones that wobble pretty good too. That's half ounce.
You know, the little Yuzuri twitch baits are good. The Shimano Colt Sniper is basically the same thing as a GI jig, is really good.
I do like the Colt Sniper too.
Probably the most universal casting jig lure that you can have, you can take fish anywhere in the world, is a gotcha lure.
And that's what I used before I found those. So the gotcha, they had the jig fish.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah.
And the gotcha lure is really neat. It has, because of its little slanted head and nose on it, when you throw it and just let it sink a little bit and just start jigging it, it's just like boom, boom. It has you don't have to do a lot of work to get a tremendous amount of action in a gotcha. It's probably the easiest lure for most people.
But which gotcha?
I like either silver with red head or silver with yellow head.
Which shape though?
They only come one shape.
What about that trolling one that you always talk about?
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna go over the trolling.
Okay.
So I get what Mark's asking me now. So the casting gotcha, it has a little slant head to it. This gotcha is great for casting. This one, if you just put it out there and troll with it, you need new line at the end of the day because it'll just sit there and spin like crazy. I don't care how many ball bearing swivels you have.
Can you tell we've been doing these things long enough together that like I know in his head I'm like, he probably wants to talk about the difference in shapes of these two.
So this one is the trolling version. It's like a little mini cedar plug with a center hole in it, and it won't just sit there and spin. It'll troll like it's supposed to. But it's like a little bitty tiny cedar plug. So you got a trolling gotcha. And on this one, you can probably see that slant head pretty good if I blow it up. That's the one you want for casting because it'll have a lot of action to it. And then, you know, any assorted little pompano jigs will work great. The best one for the Spanish, and unlike the colors for pompano, is just a solid white because that'll be most like the little rain minnows.
Go back. Yeah. I know you've got your opinion on these too.
So this is a rig that I absolutely despise. It's called a bubble rig. They're very popular on the pier. I won't discount that it catches fish very well. It has this bubble that you fill about half full of water, so it's heavy and you can throw it a tremendously long ways, and yet being half full of water it will still float. And this McDonald's straw is trailing behind it about 3 feet. You throw it out and just reel it and pop it across the surface of the water. Boat, pier, jetties, it'll work everywhere. That little popping sensation makes them crazy some days. I've seen more people go to the walk-in clinic because of that rig. Because you got this big old heavy bubble and you got 3 or 4 feet of line and a treble hook, and whether it's at the pier or the jetty or your buddy behind you in the boat, they get excited and they see the Spanish and they go, wow, and they stick them right here or right here. Or it's a dangerous little rig. That's why I don't like it. When I do fishing trips, I have several things on my list. And catching fish is normally about number 4. First is everybody comes home safe. Second is everybody has a good time. Third is everybody learns something on the trip. And then fourth is we actually catch fish. If we accomplish goals 1, 2, and 3, we'll accomplish goal 4.
You had a good hook the other day. A good hook story. During one of those fall snapper days.
Oh. I don't know if I told you. It was before the fall snapper days, but it was real close to the end of snapper season. And one of my clients, his uncles were down, and they're all getting up there in age and don't know how many more times they're going to get to go fishing. And normally I don't go out with the intent that we're going to catch a limit of fish, but on this particular day, I had in my head, we're catching our limit of fish on this day. Well, we're about 3/4 of the way through the day, and one of the uncles, he really couldn't handle just even a conventional reel or a spinning reel. So we've got him a real lightweight electric rig that he's bottom fishing with. Well, he gets tangled up with somebody on this side of the boat, and they got a fish on. And he thinks he has a fish on. He's just over there pushing the button on that electric reel. And we're hollering, me and my buddy are running his boat forward, hollering, stop, stop, stop. Well, by the time he's still pushing that button and I'm trying to get this untangled, and he runs a 7/0 owner Mutu light into the palm of my hand. He's still got the button pushed, like, stop!
He's like, oh, I got a big one.
Well, he had a big one. Well, for anybody who doesn't know, if on your boat, if you don't have a pair of bolt cutters, that should be in your safety equipment. I think we sell them at the store. We actually didn't used to sell them, send everybody to Home Depot. We're stocking them now. Like $27 for a nice pair of 14-inch bolt cutters. You need to have those. So anyway, I got the hook in my hand, and it's buried into the pad of my hand, and I'm trying to push it through so we can cut it off. Well, because it was in the pad, it just kept picking up the skin, so I get my buddy Josh to hold the skin down. Well, first, before we did that, I needed to numb it up somehow. So I had him just get a 5-gallon bucket of ice and fill it with salt water, and I stuck my hand in there for about 3 or 4 minutes till I just couldn't stand it anymore to freeze my hand, so I didn't feel it. And then we shoved the hook through, cut it off, and then his uncle felt really bad, and he goes, well, I guess we got to go home now. I said, no, I'm going to have Diet Coke and a piece of chicken. Y'all can catch me 4 more snappers.
Yep.
And we caught our 4 more snappers and managed to get home, and that one, luckily took good care of that one. No infection like my thumb had.
And every now and then I come up with a really good idea that, well, I think it's good, and I'm proud of myself whenever I come up with one. Those bolt cutters on the boat, I found, and I need to apologize to Alex, because I ran into him offshore and let him borrow some tools, and they were a little rusty. I vacuum seal my tools, because how often do you use them? Hopefully never, but when you need it, you don't want that thing seized together and rusty. And I was embarrassed when I gave Alex a screwdriver. He used it and the tip broke off. I was like, the one tool I didn't have vacuum sealed. It's tricky to vacuum seal something that's not food, but it's a good way to make a screwdriver last when you need it.
Well, all spring long, in my backpack that I bring on the boat, I actually have a dry pair of clothes that are vacuum sealed, because you're going to get wet in the spring and you're going to be cold.
Not with me. All right, anyway, back to this.
Not with me. 6-inch swell the other day.
I like to drive fast. It's Tim. Sometimes I do it on purpose.
At least it was wetter on your side.
Hey, Tim.
Yes, sir.
Just like that, I'm not sure if you guys seen it, there is a way to get a hook out that works amazing with tying a line to it, pushing the butt down and yanking it.
Works. So
it's worked I've done it 3 times for me on myself.
So he was saying that there's a way that you can take a piece of line and put it around the hook and snatch it out of your hand. Works. That method works really, really good with J hooks. But circle hooks, depends on how they're in there. A lot of times that will make it just worse.
I agree. It's always been the Spanish mackerel and ladyfish.
The 3, I think some of the easiest fish for you to get hooked by are Spanish, bonitas, ladyfish, and mahi. All 4 of them, because you grab them and they go.
Well, does everybody here have one of Tim's D-hookers? You guys, does anybody not know what we're talking about? Like a 16-inch mini gaff? There's probably I've got 4 of them on my boat, and everybody kind of laughs when they get on. They're like, "You need that many?" I'm like, "Yeah, yes, trust me."
Because the other day I'm looking for one, and he's got all 4 on the bow at the fish box.
We had so many fish that I was trying to pick them all up and move them up front, so I was just scooping everything, and I may have left all of them up front.
All of them on the bow.
Anyway, Spanish. Yeah, these I used to
Spanish.
I used to fish these things a lot. I don't like fishing with treble hooks that much anymore, and I think sometimes you'll change the hook out on these. What I like about these is it's a split ring and a single hook with a teaser. But I think sometimes you'll swap them out for a treble.
I put treble hooks on those, and I put single hooks on those. I mean, I've done it both ways.
Yeah.
We covered white jigs. Oh, just like you would for trout and redfish a lot of times, just a little soft plastic, a little Z-Man soft plastic tail. That can be another good little Spanish mackerel option with a little jig head. And any of the lures that you're using, Todd mentioned this earlier, whether you're fishing for trout or redfish, when you're fishing a lure, adding scent to it is great. They make inshore saltwater, they make offshore saltwater, they make mullet flavor, they make every flavor in the world. Whether they're actually different or not, I've never tasted one.
Also works good if you're pranking your friend when they say they need some sunscreen. You can squirt some of that in your hand and hand it to them.
You know, maybe that's what we ought to do one night, is set up a blind taste test and find out if the flavors are
Kevin
different.
would do it.
I think it would be great. Trolling rig.
You want me to pass that around?
Yeah. It's kind of hard to see on here. This is, we literally sell just thousands of these in the springtime. It's really nothing more than a glorified giant sabiki rig. That's what it is. It's got a Clark spoon on the end. It's got 4 little straws on it. We sell them in the store. You can make your own. You can come in and, you know, if you're bored all winter and need something to do, you buy the little sunglass cords that go around your neck, cut them into little 1.5-inch pieces. You can make your own. The ones you make don't really work any better, but you know, this time of year we're all bored sitting around watching TV for days and days and days. Then weren't you watching the sun go across the sky today?
I had a big day watching the sun move from east to west today.
But it is an easy rig to make if you want to make your own. But we literally sell thousands of these in the springtime. Trolling one of these. You can troll one on the surface, put one on like a 2-ounce, 2 or 3 ounce trolling lead, and put another one on a small planer. And when the Spanish are biting, you will literally catch all you want. That's the easy way. We talked about the little gotcha trolls. That's another great option. You know, this should have been in the casting section. They make the trolling Clark spoons. This one actually has a little lead on the front of it where you can throw this one. That's a great little lure. Yeah. Yeah, Clark spoons. Clark spoons probably been around. I'm 62, and I'm sure they're way older than me. They've been around forever. They make one that has a little Clark spoon rigged with a duster on it. That's a good little rig. And then your trolling leads that we talked about.
Yep. Spanish left run.
So the question was, is there a preferred depth? Not so. Yeah, the answer to the question is yes or no. Like when we're trolling out there on the buoy line on the north side of Crab Island, we're going to be fishing in 25 to 35 foot of water. In the harbor, I have seen days when they're better right in the middle of the harbor in the deepest part of the channel. And then other days, like the day I was catching them and out fishing Mark
Here we
from
go.
the sand,
I was waiting for it.
I was catching them in, a foot of water. They were much better. They were really chasing the rain minnows all the way up onto the beach. So like Mark said, when you get out there, look for the other boats. They're going to tell you where they're at. So they could be in very, very shallow water in the harbor, or they could be in the deepest part of the harbor. Most of the time, I think they're better in the front half of the harbor. But many times, I have seen other times when the entire Spanish mackerel bite is from Dolphin Point back into the pump station area and all back in there. So they can be all the way in the back of the harbor and they can be out in the mouth of the harbor. More questions? So everybody can go catch these now. You don't need to know anything else. Yeah.
I don't think the big Spanish are coming back in the bite like they used to 6 or 8 years ago.
I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, I had a short, like a 3-hour trip with some kids, and we didn't want to go too far. They didn't want to go anywhere east of 331, like from 331 to Bunker Cove, like way in the corner. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know Garners, they don't seem to be coming up like they used to.
It was like late. It was late summer too. It was like August or something. It was just literally that whole area of the bay, just crazy. It was nuts. It was a great day. Those people didn't want to go fishing either. And that east of 331.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them over there like that since. I mean, we'll catch one every now and then, but not near. I mean, it was every single cast. Like it was just as far as you could see in every direction from there all the way to the ditch. It was crazy. It was nuts. It was like that for 2 weeks, maybe.
And a gentleman just asked, what size leader do we use? Generally, I like about 40-pound test. Especially in the beginning of the season, I think 40 is plenty when the Spanish are kind of small. But as we get 3 or 4 or 5 weeks into the season and we're starting to catch more 16, 18, 20-inch Spanish, there are times when you'll need to go up as high as 50-pound leader or they'll bite your rigs. You can use 40. You just need to make sure that you keep checking the leader and that it doesn't have too many frays in it. If the leader starts to get bad, make sure you change it out if you're using lighter leader material.
What I like about lures like this, or even like the half-ounce ones, that hook is a long way away from the leader, and it's a reaction bite. They're chasing it. I mean, if you're trolling or whatever, very rarely are they going to inhale that? A big king will, for sure, but even on kings, I'll get away with fishing 30-pound leader because once that gets set in the mouth, I mean, even if he's wiggling around, that whole jig acts like a chafe guard. They can't really get to that. I mean, it'd be a pretty perfect situation for them to inhale that good enough so that their teeth hit that leader. What about hitting swivels? That happens.
Yeah, if you use a swivel, the Spanish, a lot of times you'll get one on and they'll run up and eat your other swivel and bite your whole rig off. That's a nice reason for using like a Albright or a FG knot instead of a swivel. You know that we talked for like 50 minutes on Spanish mackerel. Right. We haven't even got to sheephead yet.
Sheephead, quick.
We've been talking for a long time already. Sheephead, another really good spring species. Sheephead, for anybody who hasn't eaten sheephead before, sheephead are excellent eating. The only thing that I've found, and I don't know if you know of a way to you know, when you're cleaning sheephead, most of the time, if you catch 10 or 20 of them and you start cleaning them, you may clean every one of them and the meat's just real nice and white, just like it's supposed to be. And then all of a sudden you run by this one sheephead and the meat's kind of a pinker color. Just throw that one back. I don't know if it's a difference in male versus female, what they've been eating, but the ones with that pinker looking meat, those are not very good.
Nah, just soak it in milk and try it. You'll know real quick if it's
Yeah,
good or
but
not.
you eat with that stromboli fish.
You ate lizard
can.
fish. I don't want to hear this. You eat lizard fish.
You made fun of our spaghetti and hot dogs too.
Oh, okay. All right. So, where do you catch sheepshead?
So anybody who doesn't know, that's what a sheephead looks like. We talked about, are they good to eat? Where to catch sheephead? You need structure of some kind. It can be bridge pilings, it can be dock pilings, it can be oyster bars. You need somewhere that's holding bait. Some friends of mine the other day got a ticket. They got a ticket for scraping pilings, but really I think what the cause of the ticket was is they were tied up to the bridge. You will see people tie up to the bridge pilings to sheephead fish. That is illegal. Do not do that. I can't find anything looking through FWC stuff that says you can't scrape pilings, but maybe some of y'all know, maybe you found it. They said they got a ticket for being tied up to the pilings and scraping. I think their ticket was really just for being tied up to the pilings. But especially, maybe you don't want to do it around the bridges until we get clarification on that. But you can go to any kind of like public docks and stuff. If you scrape the pilings, that's like putting out a chum bag. If you're lazy and don't really want to do that, stop at Sexton's, buy you just a little quart thing of oysters, cut them up get you some little shears, cut them up in little tiny pieces, and chum with them little pieces of oyster.
And then get really excited when you catch one.
I think we just answered this one. Bridges, docks, markers out in the middle of the bay, jetties, seawalls, piers. Any place that you got to have structure. Baits. Fiddler crabs, oysters, clams, sand fleas, and shrimp. I want to skip these for a minute and go to pictures of what the baits look like. That's for anybody who doesn't know. Fiddler crabs. Fiddler crabs are very readily available. We have them at the store. They're like $5 a dozen.
Certain times of the year.
Yeah. It's pretty much a winter thing, and we only keep them during the times. We don't keep fiddlers on hand during the middle of the summer, just during kind of sheephead season. But you want to hook them from the back out to either side, make sure you don't kill them. Of course, oysters, you can use, this is an older picture, but we used to use pantyhose to put the oysters in. Otherwise, they're real hard to get on the line, to get on the hook, and they don't stay very good. But we sell a new product at the store now. It's new to us. It's called spawn netting. They use it up trout fishing, and they put salmon eggs in it. And it's real easy to tie it up into a little knot. You don't have to use string or anything. It kind of sticks to itself. That works really good.
Another guy, also had a big company.
Mm-hmm.
He made the rattle net work for the well.
Yeah. Of course, live shrimp. So we're always subject, on shrimp, we get what they catch. Fiddler crabs are always about the same size. Shrimp, sometimes we get a batch of shrimp and they're all great big. Sometimes we get a batch of shrimp, they're really small. Most people always want the big shrimp. Well, if you're fishing for trout or redfish and all the shrimp in the bay are big, and that's what they're feeding on, that's good. But the sheephead has a fairly small mouth. If you got a great big shrimp, you're going to get a lot of shrimp bit in half. For sheephead fishing, hopefully we have the smaller shrimp on hand.
What's weird about shrimp, especially rodeo time of the year, there's a lot of pinfish and smaller fish around that kind of pick through a lot of that stuff. So when I do get on a crab, I like it because you don't have all those little things biting the legs off and stealing the bait. What I will say though is that I think we've won 3 sheepshead divisions in the rodeo, and every single one of those came off a popping cork and a live shrimp.
You know, there's 2 other baits.
But I guess the big point is don't just do the same thing every day. If you've got 4 people on the boat, have people do something different until you find out what works. I guess that's the lesson learned.
So 2 other baits that work really good for sheephead, and this one most people will discount, but it's sand fleas. It's just like a fiddler crab, it's another type of crab. They're little mole crabs that we typically use for surf fishing and for pompano, but all the sheephead that are in the bay have been in the Gulf at one time, and they know what sand fleas are. There's days that I'll catch them better on sand fleas than anything else. And then the last one, this is sheephead and pompano both. This is the crack cocaine for them, and it's a ghost shrimp. Now, unfortunately, there's not enough ghost shrimp that we can buy them wholesale and sell them live. No one's ever came up with a way to get enough of them. But ghost shrimp are it is the best bait, but it takes some work on your part. We sell at the store ghost shrimp pumps. And if you've ever been walking around the edges of the bay and you see these little holes in the bay, those holes, there's presumably in each hole there is a ghost crab. Now, I have friends that will argue with me on this, and I don't profess to be a ghost shrimp expert because I've only been doing this for a short period of time using them myself. But you'll notice that some of the holes are relatively flat and some of the holes are more mounded up. I have caught ghost shrimp in the holes that are like these that are mounded up. I have caught ghost shrimp out of one of those holes, but I've caught more ghost shrimp out of the ones that are not mounded up. My theory is that the little ones that are mounded up, the ghost shrimp may have already came out of that hole and went to a new hole. The technique for them though, the little ghost shrimp, you need a little net with you, a little floating net or something. You're going to put the pump on top of the hole, and as you pull, it's got a little suction device in it. So you pull and push, and it's going to suck up part of the sand, and you push that out into the net. If you don't get one, go right back in the same hole, do it a little bit deeper. If you didn't get him yet, go back in that same hole a 3rd time. You can normally go out to the bay, and in 20 or 30 minutes, you should be able to catch a couple dozen fairly easy. And they're all along, there's no secret spot, any place where you got shallow water access in sandy beach area, you'll find the ghost shrimp. And they're going to be from, just barely in the water to maybe knee deep or so.
What, year round?
I've seen the ghost shrimp there all year.
Okay, like one day you get your sand fleas and your ghost shrimp and stuff. How do you keep the little things alive for the next day you go fishing?
So the question was, if you go and catch sand fleas and ghost shrimp, how do you keep them alive?
Yeah.
Get a cooler, just like a little igloo cooler that has a plastic sandwich tray in it. Fill that plastic tray up. Don't make it soupy. Put clean sand in it and have it just moist. Put the sand fleas and the ghost shrimp in there. They'll be fine the next day.
Freezer.
Sand fleas, you can. Another question was, how about freezing them? Sand fleas you can freeze and use them at a later time. The ghost shrimp are so delicate to start with. Once you freeze them and thaw them out, they're just mush. They just basically fall apart. So those you know, I have never tried blanching them. I know some people who blanch their sand fleas and they say they last longer freezing them. I don't know that you can do that with ghost shrimp. I've not tried. If I was going to try freezing them, I think I would heavily salt them just like you do ballyhoo. You know, the tackle that we've talked about, rods and reels wise already, same exact tackle is going to work for your sheephead, for your trout, for your redfish, for sabiki rigs when we're going bottom fishing, for throwing in mahis, bonitas, kings. We can use the same tackle that we talked about before. Doesn't really change for the sheephead. You know.
How big is the shrimp? So I caught one last year that it looked just like one. It was about 2 pounds.
So the question was, how big do ghost shrimp get? I don't think yours was a ghost shrimp.
I don't know what that was.
It looked just like.
Yeah. We do have another shrimp called a mantis shrimp. It's probably a mantis shrimp. But I've seen mantis shrimp.
He's like, it ate a whole
almost
herring.
8 inches, but I've never seen one that was that big. But I'm sure they probably get that big. You know, when you're using ghost shrimp, we carry a little product called magic thread. The ghost shrimp are very delicate. If you'll take this magic thread, it's kind of stretchy, almost like a little bitty light rubber band, and you can wrap it around the hook and the ghost shrimp. That'll help him stay on there better. Also, the same thing works if you're using oysters for bait. You can, instead, if you don't want to use the little mesh bags, you can use magic thread to tie them on. And then, you know, fish bites is something that works. As far as rigging, several different ways to do it. There's little, what's called the, do I have a better? Yeah, here's a better. Here's an even better.
These things are pretty cool.
It's a sheephead jig. You can tie this directly on your line and put a crab, put any of the different baits we've talked about directly onto these little sheephead jigs. You know, most of the time when we're sheephead fishing, like Mark said, we've caught several nice ones that we've won the rodeo with on popping cork
On
rigs.
circle hooks, like we would say 9 times out of 10, we'd say use a J hook.
Yeah.
But circle, same thing we'd use for redfish or trout or whatever. Somebody just tossed it off the back and they were like, oh.
Yeah, and he will throw your hat in the water if you catch the winning red.
I was a
sheephead
little
too.
excited about that fish.
Just in the water.
Went and got it.
35 degrees out, and he throws my hat in the water.
I went and got it.
You know, it's one of those things. I have to have a hat. You know, we can't even say anything more about that. But
Also got a gaff in my leg that day.
it was a good day.
It was a great day. I keep my gaff under the gunnel, and it's normally turned a certain way and all that. But I guess during the excitement, the gaff kind of spun out, and I was so excited, like we ran and kind of jumped on each other, but that gaff went right through my bibs, and there was a moment of like, oh no, I think this is bad. But somehow it went like through the pant and missed my leg. So fishing's exciting.
I love
What's that?
Don't like each other.
No. I was trying to get rid of him, but we're a good team.
So now I lost my train. Oh, we're talking about sheephead jig. So, but most of the time, yes, we would fish with a J hook, and most of the time we're going to fish vertical for the sheephead. So when we're saying that we want to fish structure like pilings, or where there's dock pilings or bridge pilings or buoy things, you're going to fish vertically up, and the sheephead are going up the piling, circling around, back down the piling, and they're looking for crabs and shrimp and oysters and things that they can eat. So they're constantly moving up and down through the water column. So what you want to do is you want to take your rig, whether you're fishing a sheephead jig or a dropper rig or a Carolina rig. All three work. You're gonna drop it all the way to the bottom and come up about 2 or 3 feet and wait. If you don't get a bite in a few minutes, come up 3 or 4 more feet. Don't get a bite, come up 3 or 4 more feet.
No.
Don't get a bite, come up a little bit more, boom, you would catch one. So we work our way up and down the pilings. And it's, sheephead fishing takes patience. The other thing I can say about hooks is most of the time, for most species, I probably fish a hook that's bigger than everybody else fishes with. Whether I'm snapper fishing or grouper fishing or king mackerel fishing, I like big hooks. With sheephead, it's way better to have a hook that's way too small than way too big. And I'm gonna go back to the very beginning. Oh, that's not the one that has his mouth open. A sheephead that's this big, his mouth is not as big as a quarter.
And it's full of teeth.
And it's full of teeth. And you got to be able to hook him right here.
Like this,
So-
like on the front of your little handout.
Handout. Yeah, that's where I saw it. That's it. Yeah. That's the picture I was looking for. So definitely no bigger than a 1/0 hook and all the way down to a number 4 hook. Way too small is way better than way too big, because if the hook is too big, you'll get bites. It'll never get in his mouth. You'll never get a hook out. So way better to have too small than too big.
Well, let me ask you a question too. Like, say you're fishing a dock or some kind of pilings or something, and there's a brand new piling or an old piling. Which one do you like better?
The older the piling, the better. A brand new piling basically has no growth on it. You know, the oldest, crappiest wooden docks, just, I think it was last year or year before last, they tore out the old Tom's Bayou Bridge in Niceville. I grew up fishing on Tom's Bayou Bridge. I can't tell you how many sheephead we caught there. And they put that new bridge in. It's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 years before it's back to being productive like it was, because it takes time for that growth to happen.
Yeah, I mean, what are they going to eat?
Yeah.
Just whatever drifts by?
Yep.
They moved to somebody else's bridge.
So definitely the older, if you see an old rickety dock where you watch a wave hit it and the dock kind of rattles, and that's where
Something
we
you'd
want
be
to
scared to walk down?
Yeah. Yes.
You get the pinfish, not the bite. I noticed at Garner's Bridge the last 3 or 4 years, there's a lot more pinfish than there's ever been. You're only going to run into them at Destin Bridge,
Yeah.
but you can't fish with them.
So the question was, how do you get the pinfish not to bite?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'll answer that question if you'll tell me how to get the sharks not to bite all my snappers and hookers. Because I just have the same problem with a bigger species.
Garner's Bridge used to never have pinfish in the wintertime, it seemed like, but now you can't hardly fish it for sheephead for pinfish.
I think go down the bridge, like you want to fish here, go down the bridge 4 or 5 pilings, and we all have some old crappy bait in the freezer. Throw that out, get all the pinfish to run over there, and then go back down there and fish.
Well, pinfish don't like crabs too much, though.
No, they're fine and correct. Pinfish don't bother them.
Right.
If you're trying to fish with oysters or shrimp, but
What about mud crabs?
Mud crab.
With the ones I have all over my house. Never mind then.
I think those are fiddler crabs, aren't they?
They're not. They're mud crabs. It's a different crab. Those also work good. Never
Okay.
mind. Those don't exist. They're fiddler crabs. Fiddler crabs work, everyone.
See, and you think I made up banded rudderfish, and you just made up mud crabs.
Mud crabs are a thing. I'll explain after all this. What else? What else?
Banded
You know what I'm
rudderfish
talking
are-
about? Yeah.
Banded rudderfish are a thing too. They're
Banded
on the
rudderfish
fish
are a
roll
thing.
now.
And I had a long chat with FWC about how FWC identifies them, and she sent me the graphics that the actual law enforcement guys use on the boat, which you probably already have it all, but you'd probably find it
when did
interesting.
they start writing tickets on tying up at Destin Bridge? Because every time you go by there, you see 8 or 10 people walking
Not-
behind fishing on them.
So
Everybody get a ticket.
technically it became illegal to tie up to or fish from a bridge stanchion after 9/11. That's when the law went into effect. Now,
Anybody get a ticket?
I think almost like the Coast Guard thing for COVID, where they tried to get everybody to wear masks on boats. I think it was more of a educate, not enforce type outlook on that.
They probably would cheat.
Yeah.
and a lot of times, with the Marine Patrol guys, it's just like if we've all made the mistake, we've been speeding or whatever, and we got pulled over by a deputy or a state trooper. They're not out there to write tickets. They would rather educate than write tickets. Your attitude generally will determine if you're getting a ticket or not.
Yep.
You got the wrong attitude, you're getting a ticket.
And those dudes are just out there doing their job, floating around, just trying to.
Stop this and ask about the kill switch being connected to you. FWC guy he said they made a law that we unenforceable. Nobody does. If you have a ticket before it gets raised for paper fishing on.
Like my buddies got broken up last week.
But
I know them very well, and they probably got mouthy. These people I know.
Well, what else? What else? Any questions or anything? Anybody have any questions?
Navigation instructions you can.
So the question was, can you fish around channel markers? Yes. You just can't tie up to them. Use the best option is a trolling motor. If you don't have a trolling motor, you can't anchor up. If you have a small boat, if your boat's under 28 foot and you do not have a trolling motor, whether you're going to bay fish or Gulf of Mexico fish, you need to go get a trolling motor. It will.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, we can say when we talk about whatever
It's a
species.
reason why we have fish regulations now, because the trolling motor makes it so easy to catch fish.
Sorry. If I have a trolling motor and you do not, and we're snapper fishing on the same spot, I'm gonna catch 10 to your 1. Just because I'm gonna be on top of the bite. It makes all the difference in the world.
What else? Yes. Kayla?
So my recipe for sheephead, because it is a nice firm fish, is cut it into nice little pieces. The fillets are not going to be real thick, so I cut it into just nice little pieces. And we use a one of them electric skillets, and I liberally salt, pepper, liberally coat the fish with Old Bay. And here's the key. You can't use, I can't believe it's not butter. You can't use margarine. Don't use Walmart butter. Spend just a little bit of money. Buy the Kerrygold butter. I'm telling you what, pan sauteed like that in Kerrygold butter, oh my God. I can make dirt taste good. What else?
Panama City. I saw Panama. Sorry.
Yeah, the question was, has anybody ever caught a hogfish around here? They catch 1 or 2 every year. They might catch 1 in Panama City, 1 in Pensacola, and then they'll catch 2 in Destin. We do have hogfish. If anybody doesn't know, they caught a great white in Navarre this week. The same guys that caught the great white in Navarre this week caught one in Orange Beach the week before. And the guys that work, one of the guys that works up at the shop, him and a buddy, pretty sure that they hooked one the other night down around Creighton Beach. It is the time of year that the great whites are here, and there's become more and more of them over the last 5 or 6 years. Never seen, I think probably 5 years ago was the first time we ever caught a great white here. And now it seems like every winter they catch 2 or 3. which I want to catch one. I've not. I've only seen one in the wild. That's a species that I really want to catch. Well, if y'all don't have any more questions, we're going to kind of wrap up.
Here goes the neighborhood.
A what?
Leopard shark. It's
Leopard shark.
juvenile tiger, not a leopard. Leopard sharks don't exist in the Gulf. I had the same thing happen. They had big spots. Yeah, it looks, but smaller fish. Yeah, tiger. Yeah, I had the same thing. We had a beautiful fish, and I'll show you pictures on mine, and I want to see pictures of yours. That came off wrong, but you guys know what I mean. You show me mine, I'll show you yours. It's a juvenile tiger. They have circles before they develop into a stripe. It's a beautiful fish.
I think next month is slow pitch jigging.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah. No, talk to them today.
That should, yeah.
We've had some computer issues on those, but we
Mingo
finally got
trigger.
that sorted out today, and we will be getting an order in the next couple days. But no, we have not.
So her list says slow. My list says Mingo and Trigger.
It is Mingo and Trigger.
Did they just change it? Because the list that they sent me 2 weeks ago was that one.
Huh.
We'll get that fixed.
Okay.
I think it is Mingo and Trigger because
We should have waited on bingo until summer.
Well, apparently we don't know how to catch Mingos.
Yeah, we
anyway,
may.
So
us talking about how to catch Mingos may not work out very well right now. We're not very good at those.
it's a trigger only then. Trigger only seminar.
We got plenty of them the other day. Just they were all too small and out of season, but we got plenty of those.
Bet your ass I'll catch some Mingos before I see you in March. I'm gonna catch all of them.
Pictures.
Yes, sir.
Well, what apps do you guys recommend, or what apps do you use?
Apps.
I'm taking this from Tim. The question was, what apps do you use? All of them. The ones that I use the most, so obviously running Garmin's on my chart plotter, I run Active Captain for a lot. But just looking at my phone, and I can show you all this stuff afterwards. Do you have Garmin's on your boat? Active Captain for sure. For weather, I use Windfinder Pro, My Radar, and then there's one called Reef. It's SWC Reefcast, but basically all it is, it's just a shortcut to the NOAA Marine forecast. I put all of the ones that I typically use on my website. So I run 30A Light Tackle. If you go to 30alighttackle.com/forecast, it's got Windfinder data, it's got some radar stuff, it's got the NOAA buoy forecast, and it's kind of confusing how I have it laid out, but it made sense to me. And honestly, I only made it so that in the morning I could pull up one site and look at it and say, okay, here's everything. So like it makes sense to me. And if you play with it long enough, you'll see where all the little links are. But the two I use more than anything are Windfinder Pro. I found to be, and that's just like the $9 a year version of Windfinder. But Windfinder and My Radar just for, I think Windfinder is the most accurate for wind, direction, swell. But again, too, like the more time you spend out on the water, you know if the wind's coming out of the north, then the north side of the bay is going to be fine and the beach is going to be fine. But if it's coming out of the east, and I can nerd out and tell you a book on that changed how I look at the water and all that stuff about why wind direction out of the east is worse than out of the west. But you just kind of learn timing, and if the tide's going out and the wind's coming out of the south, when the pass gets weird and things like that. So for me, realistically, Active Captain, Windfinder, and My Radar are the three that I use more than anything.
And the other two that I look at going out for every trip is I actually go to the actual NOAA buoys. You just type in buoy 42039 and 42040, which both are offline at the moment.
And those are both on my website, by the way.
Feel good. Good. Orange Beach is pretty good.
Yeah, but they'll have both of those back online here real soon. The storms kind of did a little damage to them. But those two buoys give you real-time accurate, tells you what the wind is right now, what the seas are right now.
And it's got cameras on them. Another thing that I use, if you look up, and it's regardless of if you're on 30A or if you're in Fort Walton Beach, one Seagrove Place, that big building down in Seagrove, has a live webcam on the top of it. So once the sun comes up and you pull up the live webcam from one Seagrove Place, it gives you just the perfect view out of all the live webcam. And that's also a link on my website. But if you look up, it gives you the perfect view of what the Gulf looks like. So in the because I run from 331 Bridge all the way around every day. Like I need to make sure it's going to be good. So between those and just patterning it over time, that's what I use. And I can show you that on my website or afterwards. I can show you like what does what I look at.
Yes, sir.
I run in Everglades, and if you ask Tim, he'll say I'm soaking wet. I go about 50 miles an hour across the bay. It's 18 miles as the crow flies, with 24 miles around. I can get there in 30 minutes if I really want, which isn't. I mean, that's often as long as it takes me to go through like a no wake zone somewhere out of a marina. But I like to roll, and luckily I get to see a lot of what's going on the bay. So it's the days that I love are the days where at 7 o'clock in the morning I run across a school of bull reds and made my offshore trip a lot less stressful than it was going to be.
This gentleman here.
You talked about catching redfish bait.
Yeah, like Todd was saying earlier, there's a bunch of redfish over there by the Coast Guard station right now. But this time of year, you're going to find, on some of the mornings, you're going to find redfish up on the flats really good. You're going to find more of them back around the boat docks that have deep water access in the back of the bays is where you're going to see a lot of your trout and redfish action. And you want to be throwing soft plastics like a little Z-Man type lure and a very, very light, definitely not more, depending on water depth, a 1/4 ounce of lead, but really more in that 8 or 16 ounce size lead for redfish right now. If you want to do them on lures, here in about 2 or 3 weeks, as we starts to warm up just a little bit and warms the water over the flats, they will become very, very good on topwater plugs on the flats. We're not there yet because the bay and stuff is way cold. We've had more of a winter this year than we normally do. So the flats are not as productive as they normally are. But
what I've found in the colder water, and maybe I'm just really excited to go fishing all the time, it is a painfully slow retrieve. Like Todd was talking about earlier, where he's just kind of tapping the bottom of the rod to make it move. I mean, it's kind of it's a slow style of fishing.
And you could take like one of the Z-Mans and these little Gamakatsu worm hooks, and this is an unweighted hook. So you can throw that soft plastic up into the dock. These, even though they're plastic, they'll sink. They sink really, really slow without a weight on there. And like Mark and Todd were saying, just tapping the rod, just barely moving it in this cold water. That's a good way to get the trout and the redfish both to bite. One of the guys that comes in the shop pretty regular, he goes out there and fishes the docks all winter, and he'll catch them. I mean, he's always got pictures of nice trout and redfish on the coldest of mornings, but it's that really, really super slow retrieve.
But remember too, you can't keep trout.
Right, till March.
It's painfully slow. That's a way to word it when it's cold out. But it feels good when you get one.
Well, guys, sorry we kept y'all here so late tonight, but we appreciate everybody coming out.
Oh, giveaways.
We do still got to do giveaways. Kayla, you're up.
Kayla's going to do something, but I will say I did bring one grand prize giveaway. This is actually the product I use to clean my boat. I think this stuff is awesome. And in this kit, it'll have some microfiber pads and the actual It's a detailing kit, but it's a waterless wash and wax with a vinyl protectorant, which is not only good for your seats, but this is also what I use for my trolling motor. So if you don't, normally when I troubleshoot something over the phone, or if I'm on with Minn Kota or Garmin or somebody, I used to ask like, hey, what's something that I should be doing that people don't really know? And somebody once said, oh, you wash your trolling motor with Armor All, right? I was like, yeah, of course. And I started laughing, and then he was like, just trust me, try it. And I started cleaning my trolling motor with Armor All or a vinyl protectorant of some sort. You'd be shocked at how much better that thing just be careful when you go to actually put it out, because it's going to shoot out of the, like but I mean, with lift assist and all that, with the spring coiled up, like you're fine. I use that a lot, but the big thing is the graphene. So, I mean, now it's ceramic coating and everybody waxing their boats and all this stuff. This is the easiest stuff I've ever used on my boat. You literally just spray it on and wipe it off. It's awesome. It's the only thing.
What would this little kit sell for?
Oh man, I don't know the retail cost of it, but it's the only thing I've found on my end of and you guys probably know how tannic the water is and that brown line you get on the side of your boat. That graphene is awesome. So I'm kind of mad to give this away because I want it, but we're doing it.
You have to get it online.
Yeah, at SRD 20, they do it. It's incredible stuff.
All right, draw some names there.
You want to do this one first?
Thought you had. Well, you always do the grand prize.
Fine.
The grand prize.
And
I
if
feel
you
like we
don't
need
call
to
my
wait on.
name, then we're in trouble.
Well,
I filled out 10 of those things when I walked in.
No, listen. I think we have actually Mark. I think we have a Mark number 1 in the crowd.
No, get out of here. And I have two half-ounce
Sweet.
GI jigs too.
GI jigs. All right. So maybe
do those
let's
first.
do.
Go
all right,
ahead.
so we'll do one of the GI jigs first.
Which if these don't
beautiful
catch a Spanish,
squeaky
it's your
girl.
fault.
They don't. They don't.
It's basically a
Shuffle it
gold
up.
spoon. See how
Okay.
it's kind of curved?
All right. So we'll do one of the
basically a
GI
half-ounce
jigs
spoon.
first.
And they're grooved
What
to
size
hold.
is that one, Tim? Do you know? You know what size that is?
It's curved.
So one of the
it'll
half
hold
ounce
procure
GI
perfect.
jigs. That is Howie Johnson. All right, congratulations. That will start off your season just right.
Is everybody else as white as me too? I'm really ready for
I know, look at this.
You got some color. You got some color on Friday.
yeah, just right here.
We got a little bit of sun today. That was nice.
I'm not sure if Hitch carries these, but Hitch,
But we will. When we get that stuff.
yeah, and
these
the
new spring orders?
in the
All right, so
Yeah,
we'll
and
go
then the
with a
regular
legendary marine
the
hat, and
regular
this is
shape
going
is
to go
awesome,
to
too.
Raymond Diaz. All right, congratulations, sir. That matches you quite fine, your outfit and
these are
everything.
sweet. They stretch. They're like, it feels like a fitted hat, but they're like,
Perfect. Okay.
yeah, dude.
All right, let's go with another legendary marine hat. This is going to go to Josh Osborne. All right,
Josh is still here.
he's still here, all the way in the back.
And you guys just text me too if you ever
There
need
you go.
anything.
All right, next up, let's do
Ray
another.
Minnow.
Huh?
Or the GI jig.
Another GI jig.
Yeah,
This
let's
is
do it.
going to go to Scott McKenzie. Front row center.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next, we'll do another legendary marine hat. This goes to Ed. Don't know how to pronounce your last name. Ed Hollican. Congratulations.
All right.
I like how our outfits are matching with these black hats, though. It's perfect.
All right, change it up. Let's do SRD 20.
All right, so
I've
we'll
got
do
a
that.
feeling.
That S.
Yeah, we're doing it.
All right, SRD 20 package. And then, Mark, what's the website if they do want to go and check that out? I mean, they have a Facebook and everything.
SRD20,
So it's SRD20.com. All right, I feel like I have to spin this one, Tim. I have to spin this one. Sorry, guys. Really work.
Mark Oates. All right.
All right, this is going to go to
I hope you're not here.
John Walters.
Oh,
All right, there you go.
So I'll give you my address and you can come clean my boat with that.
Yeah, I know where you live.
One more hat.
One more hat. This is going to Captain Mike Parker.
Yeah.
Congratulations, sir.
Not a bad throw.
Almost got it there.
Well, thanks, guys.
Nice.
If you have any questions, just let us know. I think next month, March 5th.
Yeah, March 5th is trigger fishing mingos.
So, thanks, guys.